Let me ask you something. Have you ever thought about console ports of PC games? Here's gameplay on console. Now here's gameplay on PC. Notice anything? Okay, I'm pulling your leg. It looks exactly the same. Yeah, nowadays technology has evolved so much we can't really tell the difference anymore between hardware. Can you believe Angry Birds looks the same on any platform? People are even questioning if consoles aren't just a PC. What? You're telling me this thing can produce sound and graphics and isn't a computer? What a scam. Well, there are differences where some games are better off on one platform. Just look at any AAA game on Nintendo hardware. Still, things back in the day were way different. Console versions of PC games sometimes weren't just downgrades because development may have involved a different studio or recreating the game in a different engine, which led to exclusive features, and I want to explore that. Considering what computer gaming was during its infancy, it didn't really make sense to bother with ports. I mean, look at this. So much text and things to keep up with. Meanwhile, kids can play Wall Street Kid on the NES to learn about stocks and investing. They had to start young, otherwise what? Prepare for a lifetime of incontinence? Face the reality they will not afford anything and revolve their life around subscriptions? 401k, more like 404 not okay. There are technically ports of various D&D and Ultima games, but these are just inferior to the home computer versions. So much information is missing and maybe content, but do you really think this guy is smart enough to figure that out? Somebody even thought King's Quest V would be a good idea to port on the NES. A point-and-click adventure with hand-painted backgrounds and voice acting turned into this? Yeah, they tried I guess, but it looks like it was dissolved in acid. Okay, I know Prince of Persia is at least one good example featuring exclusive level music while other versions are generally silent, which, if anything, is a plus. Fortunately, while not exactly there, things did get better later on. Some SNES classics are ports of PC games like SimCity with its exclusive changing seasons, bonus content, and Bowser Disaster. How cute. Doom was the first M-rated game on the console, and a quite impressive one. Though not made on its original engine, it still utilizes the console's FX chip, you know, the thing that was great to have but nobody used it, kinda like a college degree. Hyperbole aside, it was used, just not as much as it should have. Anyway, so despite being slow and looking very crunchy, it's decent, missing only 5 levels from the original and still featuring online multiplayer. If you're wondering how that worked, you had to connect a thing called the X-band modem to enable online play. So while necessitating an extra piece of hardware, it is an interesting feature. Oh, and for an improved experience, the SNES mouse is compatible. I would also like to mention Midi Maze. Considered the grandfather of the deathmatch game mode, it's a first-person shooter where you traverse a maze and shoot floating smiley faces. On the Atari ST version, multiplayer was possible by daisy-chaining multiple of these machines together using the MIDI in and out for up to 16 players. The SNES port was renamed to Faceball 2000, with objective being only to get the required amount of frags and go to the next level. That or split screen versus mode. Unfortunately, not compatible with the mouse. They did compensate in a way by making the smiley shapes different, but there are no teams here, I think. Generally, while at its core the same, levels are thematic with more colors, backgrounds, and a soundtrack now instead of being creepily silent like on the Amiga. Beyond FPS games, the PC's capabilities continue to evolve and offered a lot that consoles haven't caught up to. Though I guess Blizzard might have had a different idea, their RPG strategy games were very uncompromising in all departments. Whether it's a real-time strategy game managing buildings and armies, or real-time RPG fighting against a myriad of monsters, leveling up and collecting loot, what these games all have in common are complex mechanics in game design, ambitious animated cutscenes, detailed graphics, and even feature a service for online multiplayer. Cream of the crop type stuff, perfectly fitting for PC. Yet, they decided to try their hand at porting them to console. My absolute favorite has to be Diablo on PlayStation. It was initially going to be on N64, which is absolutely crazy to think, but PlayStation is fitting since it offers better capabilities. Graphically, it holds up, the cutscenes are almost indistinguishable, and gameplay is the same while missing the iconic UI to save on-screen real estate. It's all just been relegated to separate menus from which you could see your stats, level up, or view your inventory. Auto-aiming for spells is included to make it easier for the lack of mouse input. Funny, because the PlayStation mouse exists. A missed opportunity, but then again, this thing was never released outside of Japan. Anyway, the best part about Diablo on PS1 is the local co-op multiplayer. It even advertises it on the cover. This does come with its own drawback of making you both share the same screen, but it's doable. Another exclusive feature is the ability to increase game speed, which honestly would have been very helpful to have on PC since there is no sprinting yet. On the other hand, it does suffer from having slower loading times and taking 1/3 of a memory card for saves, so it can be a bit of a drag. Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness with expansions included on PS1. Not as remarkable, the only notable aspects are the automation of building upgrades and unit spawning and more unit control, all to make managing everything easier. Same UI reservations, otherwise it's the same game. Also released on the Sega Saturn, funky, but it's the same as on PS1. And now for the most bizarre port ever, StarCraft on the Nintendo 64. Listen, the game is fine, and we'll get to it, but just, man, what a wacky crossover. It's not so much about the maturity of the game, but, I don't know, the general target audience for the console doesn't fit, in my opinion. Jokes aside, it feels so out of place to be here. This was initially intended for PlayStation, the others were perfectly fine, but I guess someone really wanted to challenge themselves and crunch this down to a cartridge for some reason. Same UI and graphical reservations as before. Looking very crunchy. Some cutscenes are shorter, but it does work all things considered and includes the game's expansions, though that required the N64 expansion pack to run. Same goes for the split-screen co-op mode. Additionally, if you beat the game and unlock everything, you unlock an exclusive mission called Resurrection 4 with its own story. And it's 2-player for some reason, so 2 controllers are at least needed to beat this. So despite less soundtrack, no voice acting, and slideshow cutscenes, it's a pretty good port, but an obscure version that didn't sell well. Released in 2000, and guess what else happened that year? Yeah. Many consider Resident Evil 2 to be pure black magic, and I think StarCraft 64 is at least a close second. Since then, Blizzard returned to consoles during the 7th generation when things were more feasible. Still, these early ports existing are such gems. I talked about SNES Doom, but really, there's a litany of id Software ports I could yap about for days, so instead, let's focus on their unique specialties in this next segment. PS1 Sega Saturn Doom is actually a package containing Ultimate Doom and Doom 2, with some levels being different than on PC, plus 6 exclusive ones. Also, when playing on Ultra Violence difficulty, monsters from Doom 2 will appear on Doom 1 levels. PS Mouse, not compatible, sorry. But Final Doom PS1 is compatible. PS1 Quake 2 is also compatible with the mouse. It's largely the same game with a few cut corners to match console limitations and 2 new enemy types. The split-screen multiplayer for up to 4 people has 12 original exclusive maps, none of which appear on the PC version. N64 Quake has a different soundtrack, otherwise pretty similar to the original on PC. This is also the reason it didn't sell well, so Quake 2 tried to differentiate itself with a slightly different story and level design, almost like a spin-off, but not exactly, it's still just a port.
Attention all competitors, this is your 1-minute warning. I repeat, 1 minute to race commencement. Members of the public, you now have 1 minute to reach minimum safe distance.
Lastly for today, we have Carmageddon, a popular classic vehicular combat PC game. Edgy and gory for its time, making it subsequently controversial in its own right. Nonetheless, it earned a PS1 port containing a few oddities. For one, the intro cinematic is different, there are exclusive levels, new characters, and some differences in mechanics. In the original, you could steal your opponent's car, but on console, you can buy them instead. Now, the controversy part of this franchise comes in the form of issues with committing a massacre on wheels. It's a core part of the game, so changes were imminent. Bystanders became green blood zombies in the UK or robots in Germany, with the story slightly changed to justify their existence. On PS1, it's weird because while people are zombies, their blood is red like usual. I don't know if this was clever or accidental, either way, it's approved. If just in case you didn't know this port was a thing, it never released in America, only in Europe. I don't think it needed to because it's not very good and wasn't received well. As we march into the fruitiger Iro future of the 21st century, there's more to explore before the lines start getting blurred. For now, these were some of the older, interesting examples to explore. There are tons and tons more ports from this era, but a lot of them range from okay to just please play this on PC. There's probably something more obscure I missed out, but the library of gaming history is vast and never-ending. Right now, I have to go look underneath my bed and search for my lost rubber bands. They always end up there somehow, in between all the junk stored.